believe that beauty is health. I've worked in the beauty industry now for nearly 30 years, and the one takeaway is that a lot of the stuff that is promised, a lot of the products are out there are fluff. They're very, very marketing driven. And so I like to get to the bottom of things, and I created what's called functional beauty, and that's based on functional medicine, and that's how you can get to the root cause. So instead of just slapping that band-aid on the surface, we're actually getting to the root cause of every issue and trying to address all of that from the inside out and the outside in. So functional beauty goes beyond treating the surface, and that means understanding of your skin. And in this instance, for today's topic, hair, that's pretty much a reflection of your internal health. So if you experience hair shedding, that means your body's telling you something is wrong. So a lot of those external remedies, they're not gonna get you far. You really need to dig deep and figure out what it is that is the root cause. Otherwise, it just gets worse. So hair loss isn't just a cosmetic concern, it's a biological signal. More than half of women will notice thinning by menopause, yet very few realize it reflects deeper shifts in your hormones, nutrient status, circulation, and stress. And we're going to cover all that today. The same is true for graying, which is closely tied to oxidative stress and mitochondrial slowdown. So today we'll cut through the myths and marketing noise to uncover the real science behind hair changes, what triggers them, what you can actually do to reverse the process, and which clean and functional solutions support lasting results. All right, so let's get straight to the common causes of hair loss. So there are two big ones. The first one is called telogen effluvium, and that's a temporary state where an abnormally high percentage of hair enters the shedding phase. So it's often triggered by illness, surgery, new medications, rapid weight loss. We're seeing a lot of this now that a lot of people are on GLP-1 drugs and so on. So if you lose 15 pounds or more, you start seeing you're not just losing the fat, you're not just losing the weight, and actually they're finding out now you lose muscle more than fat, which is scary, but you also lose that hair with it. And then, of course, hormonal fluctuation. So it's often reversible if you determine what the trigger is. The second cause is pattern hair loss, and that's called female androgenetic alopecia. And so that's typically, caused by miniaturization of the follicles rather than excess shedding. And that means our hair follicles shrink, they get smaller. It's very hard now for the hair to grow. And so common around perimenopause and menopause, and that's due to that falling estrogen and that shift in the progesterone and testosterone balance. So you really need to make sure that your hormones are always balanced, and that's what's going to help drive a lot of the functions within the body, including hair growth. And so essentially the follicle shrinks, circulation declines, and nutrient delivery weakens, leading to that visible, scalp. You start seeing that space in your scalp. So we really need to understand these three and try to make sure that we're applying, modalities and so on to minimize those effects. And we'll get to solutions later, but just things that are simple like scalp massage, that can be so helpful because our bodies are designed for survival. And so when you're under stress or you have nutrient deficiencies, hormonal fluctuations, even hormonal fluctuations are considered or seen by the body as they're perceived as stress. So your body goes into survival mode and it protects, it drives a lot of nutrients to your vital organs. And hair to the body is not important. It's just an accessory. It doesn't get all of the nutrients, and hence it starts falling because it's like a plant. You need that fertilizer, you need those nutrients for your hair to continue to thrive and to grow. And so common treatments, I'm sure you guys have all known about minoxidil. So minoxidil is a big one. How does it work? So generally it's understood to work by driving blood flow to the follicle. So again, that's why I love that massage. So you want to make sure blood is always reaching your scalp, but minoxidil will do that. And so that prolongs the growth of the anagen phase, and then reduces that local DHT activity. So DHT is basically, it's a male hormone. And so a lot of times when people are really oily or when they experience a lot of hair shed, it can have to do with that DHT levels. And it doesn't even have to do with like systematic increase in DHT. Sometimes it's just localized in the scalp. That's how minoxidil actually works because it helps, kind of suppress that hormone. And then some side effects of minoxidil, obviously, I'm not a fan for many reasons, but these are some of the reasons why I am not a fan of it. A lot of people experience irritation, itching, dependency. Dependency is the big one, and that's because it's doing that suppression while you're applying it. And then once you stop, the issue is back. So it doesn't really solve your issue long term. And then, of course, if you're doing that and you're using minoxidil and you're seeing those results, you're not going to dig deep into the root cause. So it's really important to understand why you have that hair fall in the first place for you to address it versus just going to do that band-aid effect that's going to just temporarily fix it. And so actually really good news is that there is this study that came out in 2015 about rosemary oil. So I've talked about that before. And so there was a randomized trial that tested rosemary oil. They looked at it in comparison to minoxidil, and it was found to be just as effective as 2% minoxidil after 6 months of use, with fewer side effects. Obviously, it's natural, it's very, very healthy oil. So just like, an essential oil, or you can do rosemary tea rinse and so on, there are a few different ways that you can use it. And that's much safer substitute to minoxidil. And that works by improving circulation, protecting the follicles with antioxidants. It shows also that anti-androgenic activity through compounds like carnosic acid. It's safer long-term, especially for those that are sensitive to minoxidil, obviously, or that, if you just want clean option, and that's always my choice, is cleaner options. Obviously, you need consistency. So you need to be using it consistently. If you can do it daily, that's great. If not, a couple of times a week, and you start seeing results. You need about a good 6 months to see results with that. At the top of the list, aside from rosemary, there's pumpkin seed oil. So pumpkin seed oil also helps block that DHT activity. It's rich in phytosterols, and it helps improve that hair density. And I remember there was this study that they did on about 40, I think there were 20 subjects and 20 that just got placebo, 20 controls. And they showed that they were actually on males that were, experiencing alopecia. And so the ones that used it for about 40 days, if I recall correctly, had a significant improvement in hair growth. And so that's pretty awesome. That's really promising with pumpkin seed oil. Black seed oil is another one that's phenomenal for hair growth. It's highly antioxidant, highly protective, anti-inflammatory. It helps support that circulation and reduces that follicle stress. Castor oil, I'm sure all of you have heard of castor oil. So that helps boost that blood flow to the scalp, and it helps strengthen the hair shaft. And then we have grapeseed oil, which is lightweight, and that typically works as a carrier oil, but it's also really high in antioxidants. And so actually you'll find all of those oils, plus rosemary, which we talked about earlier from that study, all of them are in hair growth serum. So that's all it is. It's a high concentrate of those 5 oils that have been proven to help stimulate that hair growth. So obviously that you can find on my website, and it's all 100% organic. Again, together, these oils work synergistically to target circulation, inflammation, hormone sensitivity, and follicle nourishment. So it's a ultra multitasker. So other things that you can do to stimulate that hair growth is red light therapy. I can never stop talking about red light therapy. It's such a phenomenal modality for so many things. So you use it for inflammation. You can use it to boost your mitochondrial energy, to reduce wrinkles by boosting collagen, but it also has been shown to boost that hair growth. So that's my number one recommendation always, of course, alongside the hair growth oil that I just spoke about. Other things would be nutritional and internal support. So it wouldn't be the Beauty Doctrine if we didn't talk about nutrition and internal support. So one thing that I've seen from my experience with like hundreds of clients, protein. So I talk about protein when we talk about collagen, but I also talk about it when it comes to hair fall. Most women do not consume adequate amounts of protein, and hair is a protein. It's called keratin. Like the protein in the skin is called collagen, the protein in the hair is called keratin. And so we're constantly losing hair, we're causing damage, we're pulling at it, and we're doing all these things. So we need to have those amino acids to regrow new hair. So that's the raw material. So if you want to make new collagen, you need protein. You want to grow hair, you need protein. It goes without saying. If you're deficient, if you're not consuming enough, you're not going to make any progress as far as hair growth. And so in addition to that protein, we want a high quality collagen. I love collagen peptides. There's actually a new one. It's actual peptides. So that melts really, really fast into my morning coffee. I take that every day. By Ancient Bliss. You can also find it on my website. And then you have Holy Mane, which I've been taking for years. So you don't have to do both. It's just one or the other. Holy Mane is marine collagen that mixed with pearl powder. So, copper is extremely important. If you want to look for that in your diet, you can find it in mushrooms, you can find it in sesame seeds, in dark chocolate, and of course zinc and magnesium. Those are a must. So one of the most common causes of hair fall and hair thinning is zinc deficiency. So magnesium deficiency as well. So most Americans are actually deficient in those two essential minerals. Next is iron. So you want to make sure that you test your levels. Iron is one of those things, like I'm comfortable supplementing everything. Iron, I'm never comfortable supplementing it unless I actually know my status. So I really always recommend that you get your status, get your blood work done. And of course in vitamin A, vitamin D, all of those have to do with hair fall. So a lot of people are avoiding the sun, and which is a big mistake. And so they end up, when you're low on vitamin D, that's the inception of a lot of autoimmune diseases. And so many of the autoimmune issues actually reflect in the scalp. So you really got to make sure that you're good on that vitamin D. And if you're taking vitamin D, you got to be taking K with it. So K2. Next is hormonal adaptogen support. As far as recommendations, two of my absolute favorites are adaptogens. So if you're not familiar with adaptogens are herbs that help your body adapt to stress. And so stress is really a huge culprit in aging, in hair fall. And you hear this a lot. Like people, they'll say they've gone through a stressful event. 2 months later, they start losing hair. It just starts coming off. And so stress is what triggers all of those inflammatory cascades, whether it's hormone imbalance, because now you're producing a lot of cortisol, whether it's insulin sensitivity. So when you're really stressed, your blood sugar goes high, even if your diet doesn't change. So it's all interconnected. And so it's really important now, if you have those issues, obviously if you're under stress, if you don't sleep well, maca is phenomenal. I talk about that a lot to help with that hormone balance. And then ashwagandha. Ashwagandha is a phenomenal adaptogen to help your body adapt to stress. It's kind of like calms your nerves and so on. Obviously, the two of them will help balance that cortisol and support your overall hormone balance. And then next, Ancient Nutrition's women's hormone, blend. I absolutely love that. If your hair fall is tied to perimenopause and menopause,